Mahomes back, throws. It is incomplete, picked off by the Lions. Brian Branch with it left side. He's gone, baby. He's going to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Deflected in the air, Branch ran under it, and he took it all the way back.
Welcome to the Twentyman the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. It is week 6 in the NFL, and the Lions have gotten off to a beautiful 4-1 start. I am Tim Twentyman. This is PJ Clark. As we do every week, let's start with a few news and notes, Peach. I think injuries obviously are first and foremost when you talk about both clubs, really, because
it's a story right
Tampa's dealing with some injuries over there. Now they're coming off the bye, so they're in a pretty good situation in terms of they've had a week and a half now to kind of get some guys rested. Mike Evans, obviously the big story there with his hamstring, missed practice, I think Wednesday and Thursday. Yep. So Friday will be a big day for him. But look, Detroit's dealing with some injuries of their own. No Jahmyr Gibbs, no Brian Branch. Sam LaPorta was missing practice on Thursday. And, we should just note, we're taping this before the injury report comes out Thursday. So, we'll see what the injury report says with Sam, but obviously not good. Hopefully that's just some kind of a non-injury or an illness or something like that that they're dealing with there, but we'll obviously find out more of that later Thursday. Injuries are the great equalizer, right? It's just kind of how this league runs. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And look, I think the one thing that you have to be happy about if you're Detroit Lions fans is the Lions have been dealing with this all year, and they've been able to overcome those injuries. They've had guys step in, play well. They've been able to kind of maintain, and you hope that continues now going into a stretch of 3 or 4 games on the road.
Tougher games.
Yeah.
And that's really important. I mean, you're in theory getting St. Brown back this week, so that's a big jolt to the offense. But then if LaPorta, we've no idea what the situation is right now, but that would be a hit. But you saw what the offense was able to still keep rolling without St. Brown last week because of LaPorta. Now maybe you're swapping that out, and yeah, is it a better team? It's on the road, better defense. All that is certainly true, but definitely, Mike Evans not being out there is a big hit to Tampa as well.
Yeah, 100%. Lions on the road, like we mentioned, 80 degrees, not too. No, I think it's some of the times you've gone down to Miami, right? And you've been 100 degrees in the winter when it's cold here. You've been on that other side of the field where they're shaded and you're in the sun. I think because of the fact it was 80 degrees here in Detroit for the past week before this week, I don't think that's as big a deal as maybe some other times when you go down to Florida and face the humidity and stuff like that. I think we're close enough to the summer, close enough to 80-degree days here. It's still early. I don't think that's going to be a factor. But look, they're 3-1. They're playing some really good defense. They've got some guys over there. They've got 2 of the premier guys on the outside on offense, and Baker Mayfield's playing some good ball. So how about we get into some of these matchups?
Let's do it.
All right. First off, we mentioned one of the guys on the outside, Mike Evans versus Cam Sutton. And, look, Cam Sutton was part of that trio that was brought here to be kind of that revamped secondary, right? Now, unfortunately, he's the only man standing. Yeah, because of injuries to C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Emmanuel Mosley last week, obviously. But, look, he's just been steady. He doesn't mind coming up and playing the run. He's sticky in coverage. He doesn't give up a lot of big plays. He's just kind of the guy that they thought he was. And I think it'll be an interesting matchup this week. You look at Evans, the only wide receiver in NFL history to have 1,000 yards in his first 9 seasons.
A Hall of Famer.
I mean, the guy is so good. Looking for his 4th touchdown in a row at home. He plays well at Raymond James Stadium. That's a big matchup.
Yeah, and I think you're getting exactly what you paid for in Cam Sutton right now. Just steady Eddie. You needed a kind of a calming presence, at least in the secondary there. And, you gave him that big $33 million contract, and I think you're getting exactly what you're looking for right now. And that's big. I mean, he's only been targeted 24 times. Jerry on the other side is 37, so offenses are clearly making it a point to go to the other side of the field a little bit more there. Hasn't allowed that many receptions. I think 16 receptions on the 24 targets, which is, a good big plays.
Only 1 touchdown,
limiting the big plays. He's been great. And then you look at Mike Evans, who, hasn't run for 2 weeks now, which is definitely a concern and something that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Friday is obviously going to be the big day there. Yeah. But Trey Palmer has played really well. Their rookie 6th-round pick, fastest 40 time this year at the combine, has 2 touchdowns on the season. A little bit of a smaller guy, not the big jump ball Mike Evans, but still might be an interesting matchup there for Cam Sutton if Evans can't go.
And I think it's worth noting here Chris Godwin too, because that could be a matchup you see. They could switch those guys with sides and matchups. And look, Chris Godwin is another guy who had 1,000 yards receiving last year. They were only one of 5 duos in the league with 2 guys with 1,000 yards. Currently, there's only 7 duos that have at least 20 catches, at least 250 yards. They're one of them. So I think Chris Godwin can kind of fit in here too as a key matchup. Whenever Cam Sutton and Jerry Jacobs are matched up against those 2 guys, I think that's really one of the key matchups in the game on Sunday.
Yeah, because you're looking at, Cade Otton has pretty good numbers this year just by virtue of being the 3rd option, but he's not an elite tight end right now. So you're really looking at who are the outside wide receivers, what can Godwin do over the middle of the field, and then what can Evans do outside.
All right, let's switch it over. David Montgomery versus Devin White. And I think we talk about guy worth every penny, worth the contract he got.
Yeah.
I would say check to David Montgomery as well. I mean, guy's got 6 touchdowns in his first 4 games. He's back-to-back 100-yard plus and a touchdown. I mean, he's been everything Detroit Lions thought he'd be, and probably a little bit more. I mean, they faced him in Chicago. He was elusive, right? He was that guy that always made guys miss, partly because he had to, because of Chicago's offensive line. I think it's night and day running behind this line versus Chicago's line, and he's been a perfect match. And look, he's going to get a good matchup this week with Devin White. Since 2009, the only guy in the league with 500 plus tackles, 20 plus sacks, 10 plus takeaways. I mean, he's kind of that key cog for their defense. And I saw an interview that he did on Buccaneers.com this week, and he said, look, this is a week because of this offense, because of this run game. I'm going to have to fly around, make plays, and he said, I got to get 15 plus tackles this week, and I wouldn't put him past him because he's pretty darn good.
No, and you're going to get the opportunity the way the Lions want to run the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to run the ball 50 times probably the way this is going, and somebody's got to be there to make the tackles. You got Levante David as well, and in the middle there, one of the best linebacking duos in the league. You saw what Seattle was able to do against the Lions with Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner. You got a similar type of deal here, an older guy and a younger guy, a little more athletic, in Devin White. But Tampa's allowing 4.9 yards per carry, which is, when you have an elite nose tackle and 2 good linebackers like that, is a surprisingly high number.
Yeah.
Montgomery averaged 5.7 last week. You got to be able to still push the pile and keep that trending in the right direction.
One thing with those numbers, a little bit skewed. They did play Philadelphia, which is a great running football team. Philadelphia had 201 yards on them. Their other 3 opponents, 79 yards or less. Yeah. So really that was skewed by Philadelphia, but I would put Detroit and Philadelphia on a similar level just in terms of the way they can run the football.
You have the home run hitter and you have the
Jalen Hurts
line.
gives them a little bit different dynamic from the quarterback position, but I think in terms of the offensive line, the commitment to the run, how they do it, I think Detroit and Philadelphia aren't equal pairing. So you've got to look at that as a positive, say, look what Philadelphia was able to go in there and do, run the ball that many times for 201 yards. But other than that, Tampa's been pretty good. So I think this will be a pretty good matchup between Montgomery and White. Can you make White miss? Can you get past that first guy in the second level that then gets you into the third level and the big runs like we saw with his first run last week, the 42-yard touchdown.
We'll take more of those.
All right, let's go to Detroit's defense, and Aidan Hutchinson's been terrific. I mean, when you look at Aidan Hutchinson compared to the other defensive ends, the edge rushers around the league in terms of grades from PFF or Pro Football Reference or some of the things, it's TJ Watt, it's Aidan Hutchinson, it's Max Crosby, some of these elite guys are he's right there in that conversation in terms of his grade, and he's been terrific. I mean, he leads the NFL in pressures with 35. He trails Max Crosby by just 1 in terms of pressures. I mean, he's had guys like Micah Parsons is on that list. I mean, he has just played at an elite level. And look, he's going to get a guy when he's over on the left side, Tristan Wirfs, who I think is one of the best in the league. But we're going to put Luke Godek in here, or Godecki, in this conversation too, their right tackle, because as we've seen the first 5 games, Hutch is going to play both sides, but I think it'll be really interesting if he ever gets matched up on Tristan Wirfs, because that's best on best.
That is best on best. That's best on best league-wide.
Yes.
That's not just like what the Lions have to offer versus what Tampa has to offer. That is a matchup that everybody is going to be waiting for and looking to see. And, there were questions coming into this year. How is Wirfs going to – he played right tackle for the first 4 years. And what's going to happen now going to the left? Has not missed a singular beat.
0
has been
sacks,
even better.
0 QB hits, 2 total pressures.
And that's a testament to Baker getting the ball out and playing the quick game. That's where Baker really excels. And Godwin, I think, has been a godsend for him, just over the middle of the field, throwing those drags and getting the ball out early. But Gadecki only 1 sack allowed on the right side too. But to me, that's an offensive line that has been banged up so much in the interior. I think, as we've seen, Aidan's getting a lot of pressures off of stunts and a lot of action inside, where maybe you're putting, a Romeo Okwara on the outside of him, shifting him into 5-tech, 3-tech. I think it could be a week we see maybe even a little more of that against an injury-depleted Tampa interior versus one elite tackle, and Gadecki's been really good this year.
And Ali
as well.
McNeil's big for that too.
Yeah.
Can he open some things up for the guys on the outside by generating pressure? We've seen that through the first 4 weeks of the season. He's been really good. He's tied for his career high with 2 sacks already, 5 pressures. I think his career high was 11. So he's already on that pace to be an impact player inside, but he's good on some of those games too. And he obviously affects the guys on the outside. So that's something to watch too. But Hutchinson versus Wirfs will be, my eyes will definitely be on. I don't know how many times we have seen Hutch line up over the right tackle and getting Gadecki, probably a little bit more, but I wanted to put this matchup in here because if you do see it on Sunday,
it's best on best.
It's worth watching who gets the better of who, and I think that says a lot about each individual.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go. Since we're talking about the interior of the defensive line, Vita Vea.
You want another best on best?
They've got a pretty good one over there. They might have the best nose tackle in football in Vita Vea. Leads them with 3.5 sacks. I mean, just a guy that's terrific. But I think if you're going to counter something like that, you've got a pretty good counter in an all Pro Bowl caliber type player in Frank Ragnow, and that will be a great matchup in the interior when Detroit's on offense and Tampa Bay's on defense.
Yeah, and Tampa Bay, I mean, Todd Bowles likes to blitz, right? So you're getting a lot. You're getting an extra man on a bunch of snaps, and Shaq Barrett is still out there, and you're seeing what their pass rush can do. They have 3 sacks a game so far. So the Lions, I think it's going to be another. If you're getting Amon-Ra back, especially, how does the quick game work? Do you see a little bit more Khalif Raymond this week? Just don't let that line get pushed, because Todd Bowles is going to send 5. He's going to send 6. He loves to blitz. He loves to play man coverage. That's what you're going to be looking for. And they've been elite in pass defense this year. I know we're going to get to that in a little bit, but they've got 2 good outside corners. They've got good safeties. They've got a nickel that creates turnovers. So
their linebackers can cover.
So what are you going to do when Vita Vea, probably the best nose in the league, is coming right up the middle? You got to be ready for that. And I think he's been better against the pass than he has against the run this year, which is a little strange, not what we've seen from him in the past. So I think this is going back to maybe, do you rely on Montgomery? Can he get to that second level and get you some yards that way?
And potentially no Jonah Jackson this week either, so something else to kind of consider when you're talking about that matchup on the interior. But when you just speak to Frank specifically, what a heck of a season the guy is having. We all know what he's dealing with. Yeah. It's chronic. It's never going to get better. I mean, that toe injury is just
every week.
Just going to be something he deals with every single down, every single game. It's not going to get better. It's pain tolerance, but to still play at a level he's playing, no sacks allowed. I think 1 quarterback hit and 2 pressures up the middle for a guy that's dealing with what he's dealing with. He's one of the best in the business. And again, like we talked about with Hutchinson and Wirfs, best on best when they're matched up one-on-one. I don't know how much they'll leave Vita Vea one-on-one with Frank. Certainly he can handle that, but that will be one to certainly circle and watch on the interior. One of the best centers in the league against arguably the best nose tackle.
Yeah, this is a big one. I mean, on both sides, you're seeing the development of the Lions defensive line versus a superstar left tackle, and then on the other side, Vita Vea has found something as a pass rusher this year that we haven't necessarily seen in the past. He's always been elite against the run and in that upper tier of noses. But if he's going to, on track for double-digit sacks this year, that's a new one that he's breaking out.
But again, Philadelphia was able to contain them a little bit, contain him, run the football. Very good offensive line. Detroit, similarly,
you're looking,
very good offensive line.
For the Lions.
Yes, 100%. So I think you can take I'm sure Detroit put that Philadelphia game on loop a lot this week to see how they could exploit this defense, what they could do, and obviously getting Vita Vea under wraps is going to be a big part of that. All right, you mentioned it. Amon-Ra St. Brown is back. Tampa Bay has been very good against the pass. I think one of the reasons why is they kind of found a nickel out of nowhere. Kind of like we talked about with Brian Branch becoming just this guy that has now solidified the nickel spot and been the guy, and you think he's going to be there for a long time. Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Christian Izien is, I think, going to be a good one too. You know, a rookie who is a safety who kind of just fell into that role because of some injuries and some things, and has really, played well in that spot. 79.8 passer rating against. He's got 2 interceptions on the year. He's kind of been that guy in the middle for them, and obviously we all know what St. Brown can do. He's been at practice all week, which is a great sign. Getting him back is going to be huge, but that's going to be an interesting matchup between kind of a young guy looking to make a name for himself and a guy who's trying to get back in the fold after missing a game last week dealing with an abdominal injury.
Yeah, I think both sides are going to be targeting this one, right? Yeah. Amon-Ra's looking at a rookie across from him and thinks maybe you can get a leg up and take advantage of that. But then on the Bucs side, you're looking, how can the secondary as a whole? He's created two turnovers, and he's been good to start his career. But you're looking, Antoine Winfield, one of the better safeties in the league, an elite cover guy, an elite blitzer. You're going to see 31 all over the field making plays, and you got Carlton Davis has been excellent this year on the outside. You're really making sure, how can we control not only Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Josh Reynolds, Sam LaPorta if he's out there, whoever the Lions are going to throw at you, but you found something a little bit with a rookie nickel, and I think that's good and bad. Coming off a bye, first time getting some rest in the NFL, I think that's he's going to be ready to go against maybe the top slot receiver in the league.
Oh, 100%. This is a kind of show me game for him, right? Yeah. Where do I stand in a league? Am I, what I think I am?
Against a guy that is going to get, 10 targets.
In a huge game, too. I mean, it's a 4-1 team versus a 3-1 team. I think this has implications in the playoffs potentially down the road. So it's a huge matchup this week. Those are the key matchups. I'm going to have Scott Smith on from Buccaneers.com. He's going to break down everything from the Bucs side. I think Josh Reynolds is going to stop by. He's been playing some
good week.
He's been playing some pretty good ball, so we're going to have a chat with him. So stick with us. We'll have a lot more coming on the 20 in the Huddle podcast. Welcome back to the 20 in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft, and I'm very happy to welcome in Scott Smith, the senior writer and editor over at Buccaneers.com. Scott, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining me.
I'm doing great. This is like an old NFC Central throwback for me.
It is, and it's 2 teams. Yeah, it's 2 teams. You got the creamsicles going. Are you excited for it? I like the sweatshirt there. Look at that. You're already in the festive mood this week.
Oh, we've been wearing it. We've been wearing the orange all week. Different varieties. I've been pulling stuff out from my closet from the 1990s. The whole area is really excited about it. Which is surprising.
I bet. I'm kind of excited. That's, to me, is what brings back the old NFC Central, right? Is the creamsicle.
Yeah. It's like I'm wearing stuff I was wearing when I was watching Barry Sanders back then. Get 150 yards on us every time.
All right, well, look, it's a great matchup, right? I mean, it's a 4-1 Detroit Lions team playing some good football, and a Tampa Bay team that's 3-1. Their only loss being to the defending NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles, so they're playing good ball too. This could have some playoff implications in the NFC down the line. So, a fun Week 6 matchup between 2 old rivals, right?
It's if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the only game on this week's slate that pits 2 first-place teams from different divisions, and the only one that has 2 teams with 1 loss or fewer. So I think it is kind of an early barometer type game for the NFC hierarchy. I think everybody would probably say that the Eagles and 49ers are kind of perceived as the top 2 teams in the conference right now. But who's next after that? I mean, a lot of people are now saying the Lions. Obviously, Dallas took a little bit on the chin against San Francisco. But at some point, maybe if the Bucs can put together a few more wins, we could get into that conversation.
Yeah, right there with Seattle too. I think there's a number of teams kind of right there in that second tier behind the consensus top two. Maybe can get into that picture into the NFC North. Well, let's start here, Scott. Let's start with the injuries. You guys are coming off a bye week, which look, players usually like that to be kind of mid season, but for you guys, you were dealing with quite a few injuries there. One, what was the bye? A perfect time for you guys this early in the season, and then probably the big name, being talked about in Detroit is Mike Evans. Wasn't at practice Wednesday, wasn't at practice Thursday. What's his availability for Sunday?
Well, he is probably going to be a decision at the end of the week. I don't want to read too much into the fact that he didn't practice on Wednesday because I think the plan all along was sort of take it easy on him until the end of the week and then see how it could do, because it's a hamstring injury. And you guys know as well as anybody that those are hard to gauge. And you may think you're walking around and feeling fine and you try to run and then you have a setback. So I think they're taking the most cautious approach, but I really do think that they're not going to know until Friday or Saturday if he's going to be available. Otherwise, though, the bye week did us good. We had only him and our starting right tackle, Luke Gedeke, was a little limited yesterday. Otherwise, everybody was a full participant, including our first-round pick, Calijah Kancey, who played 11 snaps in the season opener and then aggravated his preseason calf injury and hasn't played since. So getting him back would be huge because they really think the addition of this quicker type of, fast, get off the ball, quicker type of interior defensive lineman is going to make a huge difference to what we do, because we mostly have big guys like Vita Vea who win with power. So we think that's going to be a nice compliment, and it's really going to really dial up the pressure from the inside. But we haven't seen much of it. We've seen 11 snaps. So.
Yeah, I know that during the pre-draft process, I really liked Kancey coming out of Pittsburgh. He had those comparisons to Aaron Donald, and that will be an interesting dynamic that teams will have to deal with, because you look at Vita Vea, 3.5 sacks. He's really upped his pass rush game. He's always been so good, against the run, but now we see some of those pressure numbers, some of those sack numbers. He's been able to push the pocket and get pressure. Now you add a guy that could potentially have that quick first step, that little different dynamic. They could play games off each other. That could really impact the center of that Tampa Bay defense, couldn't it?
That's what we're hoping for. And I think with Vita, the thing about it is, yes, he has 3.5 sacks and he had a career high 6.5 last year. But if you look deeper into the numbers, like on next gen type stuff, when we have Vita on the field and when we don't have Vita on the field, there's a stark difference in the yards per carry that we give up and the yards per play. So he's putting up some numbers now that are maybe catching people's eyes, but even when he's not getting 2 sacks in a game, he's really making a big difference to what we do up front. And with him in there doing that, you put Kancey in there and you can't double team them both most of the time. I think that's the plan, and that's why he was drafted, to get that different element up front, and we're hoping it's going to make a big difference. When he played against Minnesota in week 1 on the first drive on just his third NFL play, he made an awesome rush up the middle and hit the quarterback, Kirk Cousins, and caused an incompletion. So we've seen what he can do in a very small dose.
Well, let's stick on that side of the football. Obviously, Devin White and some of the guys that Lamont David and Antoine Winfield. I mean, you guys are really strong up the center of that defense. You guys have played well on that side of the ball all year long, except maybe the Philadelphia game where it kind of got away a little bit, especially on the ground. But just what's been the biggest thing with you guys defensively that's allowed you to play pretty consistent football all year long outside of that Philadelphia game? I think 79 yards is the highest any team has rushed against you guys. So you've been terrific against the pass. What's really been the catalyst, you think, for you guys' play on defense this year?
I think you said his name there, and I'm going to focus in on one guy, and that's Antoine Winfield Jr. I've been predicting for a couple of years that he has first team All-Pro awards in his future. And I think we're seeing this year, if he continues to play the way he's played through the first 4 games, I think he's got a very good shot at that. Last year they took him and they put him in a dual role where he played safety in base packages, and then he was the slot corner in nickel packages. And while he was probably our best option for the slot that year, it really wasn't playing to his strengths. So now he's back playing safety, and we refer to him generally as the free safety, but he actually plays up around the line of scrimmage an awful lot. And Winfield, I mean, he's never put up big interception totals, but I don't know how many safeties do as much as he does. I mean, he's leading our team in tackles. He's leading our team in forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, passes defense, and he's even tied for second in sacks. He's an outstanding blitzer. He's just got a knack for it, and he's so tough around the line of scrimmage that he's a big part of our run defense. I mean, obviously Levante and Devin are too, and Vita Vea up front, but I think Winfield's the one that's really kind of putting this defense over the top right now.
Let's switch over to the other side of the ball. Baker Mayfield, I mean, he's playing some really good football right now. What makes him such a good fit? What makes this Bucs offense a good fit for him?
You know, when we signed Baker in the offseason, obviously we were looking for somebody to compete with Kyle Trask to replace the unreplaceable, right? I mean, it's Tom Brady. You don't
that guy.
The guy right after Tom Brady. But we got a new offensive coordinator this year too from Seattle, Dave Canales, and Dave knew what he wanted to do. And some of that involves your quarterback moving around a little bit more than we're used to. You know, Tom Brady's the greatest of all time, and even he would say moving him around isn't something that's really successful. He's a very much a pocket passer. We're doing a lot more of putting our quarterback on the move this year, and they thought that Baker looked good in those types of plays before they signed him. They thought he was a good fit for here. Now he's come in here. Obviously, you've seen he's done quite well, as has Jared Goff. Their numbers are actually really similar, by the way. But he's not only been a good fit for the offense, and everybody's learning the offense together, so it's not like he came in behind. He's also been a really good cultural fit. The Buccaneers waited. Todd Bowles didn't want to name. You know how most teams name their team captains right before the first game?
You know, I saw that this week. It was a little. It caught my eye when I saw you tweet that out. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, we generally do that as well. But in this case, just because of the way the roster is put together and some new elements there, Todd Bowles really wanted to wait about a month and see who actually emerged as leaders before the players voted. Because
I like that.
Your quarterback's usually one of your captains, right? If it's not, you're probably not in a great spot at that position. And but would it have been a little bit weird to name Baker Mayfield a captain before he even played a single game for us? But you give it a month and you see these guys love him. They talk about him as a leader. They absolutely love the way he's in the locker room and in the huddle, and they're following him already. So then when it's 4 games in, now when the players vote, it makes sense to vote for Baker Mayfield and Antoine Winfield and guys like that. So he's been a great fit for the offense. I think we're playing to his strengths. I think Dave Canales purposely wants to have a quarterback-friendly system, the way you might describe a Shanahan offense or a McVay offense. And he wants Baker to make the easy throws, make the plays that are there, and then take your shots, but at the right time. And so far, he's done that.
And he brings a little swagger to that position. Aaron Glenn talked about that. The defensive coordinator for the Lions talked about that a little bit, how he likes that in opposing quarterback. He's going to be him. Baker's always had kind of that edge to him. And look, he's playing good football. I think he brings an attitude to that offense. And they're playing pretty good. And he's got 2 pretty good guys to throw to on the outside. And Evans and Godwin, that helps any quarterback too. Scott, maybe 1 or 2 key matchups you look at in this one as being key to either side, maybe having the edge on Sunday?
Well, I think for us, we got to start with Aidan Hutchinson. Now, I was trying to determine, but I couldn't figure it out on Next Gen, where I get the impression that your coaches move him around a lot, but if there's one side or another he more commonly rushes from, I don't know what that is, but
typically you'll see him versus the right tackle, maybe a little bit more than the left. But what they've been doing a lot of now is moving him inside too. They run a lot of stunts with him. They play him inside with some combinations. So they really will rush him all over the place, but mostly right and inside versus the left. But I'm sure he'll see Tristan Wirfs maybe once or twice, which will be a fun matchup to watch.
Yeah. Well, I'd probably have to go with Luke Gedeke. He's in his first year starting at right tackle. He played right tackle in college. Bucs drafted him with the idea of playing him at guard. Tried that first last year, and it really wasn't it didn't prove to be a great fit, so they moved him back to right tackle, and I think they're pretty happy with what he's been doing so far, but this is probably the biggest challenge he will have faced yet. We all know how well Aidan's playing right now. For us, when we're on defense, well, I know that the key for us, our coaches always say it, and it's happening this year, is to stop the run first. And as you said, in the 3 wins, we've done a very good job of that. And then that gives Todd Bowles the opportunity to do what he likes to do on defense, which is be very aggressive. I mean, I think we have the 3rd highest blitz rate in the league. And so maybe just trying to slow down David Montgomery. I see Jahmyr Gibbs has missed a game. I don't know if he's playing this week, but David Montgomery seems to me like he's playing better now than his years in Chicago. And I know he's got a lot of yards. He had a great game last week. So guys like Antoine Winfield and Devin White slowing him down, I think that'll be key for us when we're on defense.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a kind of eye-popping situation for David Montgomery running behind one of the top 5 offensive lines in the league in Detroit versus what he's had to deal with in Chicago over some of the years. So it's a little night and day for him. So I think we're seeing the best of David Montgomery, helped and aided by running behind a very good offensive line. That usually helps. All right, I need a weather report from you, Scott. It's cold here. We got into the 40s here in Michigan. What can we expect Sunday? Any rain? Could it get sloppy? Does it look good? What's the weather report for Sunday?
Well, I'll start by telling you that I'm wearing this sweatshirt for this. I'm taking it off as soon as I'm done because it is hot.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep bragging, Scott. Keep bragging. That's fine.
Actually, we finally cooled down a little bit this week into like highs of the low 80s. It still felt like midsummer until a week or two ago.
I can hear the violins in the background here.
I'd take some 40-degree evenings right now. I think that would be nice. It's supposed to be a high of about 80 on Sunday when the game, and so that would probably be about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Game kicks off at 4:30, so maybe a little less than that. There's only about a 15% chance of rain at that time of day, and they tend to come. It does often rain here at this time of the year around 4 o'clock, but it usually passes through pretty quickly. And the field's generally in pretty good shape, even if it rains just a little bit. So I don't think we're going to have weather or field condition issues at all. So that's good because, I want to see these two offenses at work, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. It sounds like it's going to be a good atmosphere, good weather, 2 good teams that are playing some pretty good football right now in a football game that could have implications in the NFC down the line. So it should be a fun one. It's the game of the week this week. I think deservedly so. Scott does a great job with Buccaneers.com. Follow his stuff on Buccaneers.com. Get ready for everything heading into Sunday. What's the deal with Mike Evans? Any kind of information you want Tampa related, Scott's got you taken care of down there. Scott, I appreciate you taking the time. Good stuff here, and we'll see you on Sunday in Tampa.
Well, thank you, Tim. I appreciate you having me on.
Welcome back to the Twentyman the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft. And I've been waiting for this one for a few weeks. I am welcoming in Josh Reynolds, veteran wide receiver. And Josh, let's start with this. How's the groin injury? Because I don't think a lot of people know that you've been doing what you've been doing the last few weeks while dealing, with this groin injury, dealing with things. Is it getting better? Are you just kind of maintaining dealing with it? Where you at injury-wise on the injury front?
Yeah, so it's actually feeling a lot better now.
Good.
I got a little more pop to, to my game and stuff now, a little more explosiveness. So it's been nice, but, the 2 weeks that I was kind of dealing with it, man, it was rough.
And yet the production. We talked to Dan Campbell this week, and Dan went on 97.1, and he was asked about you, and he used words like reliability, trustworthy. When you hear your head coach say that about you, what kind of comes to your mind? Because that's got to be what you're about, right?
No doubt.
Is a guy that's dependable, a guy that's every week's going to be there despite injury, despite what you're dealing with, and a guy that makes plays like you've been doing.
Yeah. Honestly, for a guy like me, that's not like a real flashy, kind of player. I think it's big for me, because a lot of people nowadays, they want to see that flash a little bit, the 4 threes, just stuff like that. And so, for me to be able to be in the right spot and have that trust with JG to, him knowing I'm going to be where I need to be at so he can let this ball go, it's big.
Speaking of JG, I think you've played, 5 games without him as your quarterback, something like that? You guys have been together a long time. When a quarterback and wide receiver are together that long, is it just you know each other so well and you're just so much on the same page? He knows how you call out of a break, where you want the depth of this route to be. You're smiling because is it almost like you guys can talk to each other without talking to each other?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it took him a little minute to kind of figure out my stride length because I'm a smooth runner, so it doesn't perceive that I'm fast, but I cover a lot of ground. And so coming out of my breaks, it looks I wouldn't say slow, but it looks like I'm getting out a little, but the ground I'm covering, he has to he has to time it up right. So now it's It's easy.
I'm not gonna let you get away with this. I'm not explosive. This isn't.
Oh no, I'm not saying I'm not.
I'm just gonna say because I'm looking at the numbers right here.
I'm not saying I'm not.
Josh,
my GPS, my GPS is going.
okay. Because I'm saying I 16 catches, 16 first downs. Josh, of your 16 catches, 10 have gone for 20 plus. I mean, we saw the big play right out the gate. Last week. I mean, you're making big plays, and you're a big part of this offense. And I truly believe, and I think people out there, I don't know if this team's 4-1 with some of the absences they've had with the suspensions and Amon-Ra missing games. You've been the steady guy right there making plays every week. And I think an explosive, but you're sneaky explosive, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a good way to describe it?
That's why my nickname was Big Smooth for a while, man. I'm just smooth, man. It's just I operate smoothly. So when I'm out there making plays, it looks easy.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I like it.
But it's not, it's not easy.
No.
I work every day with, for this, and I'm just glad I'm able to, now show the world.
You were with Jared when he was really humming in LA. I mean, when you guys were going to the Super Bowls and he was playing some of the best football of his career. Is he right there with that? It almost looks like, and I know he's talked about playing the best football of his career right now here. It's even better than when he was really humming. Just what 100%. Kind of a groove is he in?
Oh man, he's feeling himself a little bit, and I like to see it, man. Because you can just feel you can feel the confidence out there he has. He's even got a little swag now. His game day fits from LA to now. Oh man, he's stepped up.
You guys in the wide receiver room can appreciate that.
Oh yeah, man. Because you always want a dog as your quarterback, and he's got it. So it's nice to see him bringing it out now.
He's bringing it out. You guys are having fun in the wide receiver room. You guys are playing really good offense. I mean, you're top 10 in the league in every single statistical category on offense. Just how much fun are you guys having on that side of the ball? And how big of an influence has Ben for not only the overall production of the offense, but in your game as well and helping you?
Yeah, Ben's been everything, man. He's great at putting guys in the right spots. And we got receivers that can run all kinds of routes, but he makes sure he puts guys in the best spots possible to exploit their skill set, and it's been big, man. So, you just got to keep running. I'm just glad he came back.
I know, right? I think everybody out there is
I'm just happy he came back.
But when you add stuff like a double, a reverse flea flicker,
yeah.
And you're snapping the ball between the quarterback's legs before the defense isn't ready. I mean, and you're doing things like that, but it's not just that creativity. You're also physical. You can run the football down people's throats, but you can do all that kind of stuff too. I mean, that's got to be fun for an offensive player, isn't it?
And I think that's what makes it easy for him to be able to throw plays out like that, because he's got guys that can make him come to life. Because a play is only a play, but you need the right guys to be able to make that play come alive.
How much pride do you also take in you can play any position? You can play the X, Z, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, you can just step in and play all three. How much pride do you take in that ability as a receiver? Because not all guys can do that.
A lot, man. I learned from an early age. The more you know, the better chances you have to get on that field. Because one guy goes down, next thing you know, everybody starts moving, shifting positions and stuff. And if he was kind of one of them guys that were like, all right, I'm this position right here. That's what I'm learning. Now something goes down. Now you're behind. Now you got to learn this whole nother position that you're not comfortable with, and now you're playing slow, and it just doesn't look good. So, but that's what's been good about Coach L and I mean this offense. Like we harp on trying to get guys to know all positions, because we know how fast.
It's not a matter of if it's when injury's going to happen, right? And it's just
yes, you never know how fast things change, and now we don't have any of our starters in, or just stuff like that, and so it's important.
How close are you with Mike Evans? He's obviously been doing it at a really high level for a long time. You guys both went to Texas A&M, right? Yeah. And I don't know if people out here know this, but Mike Evans doesn't hold the Texas A&M record, or didn't, for touchdowns in a season.
He did.
He did. I mean, he did. He did for a minute, but he doesn't anymore.
No.
Who holds the
I had to take that from him, man.
You had 13, right? You had 12. You had 13.
Yeah.
Have you guys stayed? I mean, I know. Were you there at the same time?
Nah,
no.
so
I think you missed by a year, right?
I'm a little bit younger, and so he's at least for the early part of it, he was helpful.
Yeah.
He'd come back to A&M a lot. Give his pointers and stuff, and all that. But I wouldn't say we just talk all the time.
Right.
If I needed to,
But there's
and I
that
had
connection
some,
between schools.
If I needed to and had some questions, I'm 100% sure he'd hit back. So it's just that camaraderie we have between A&M guys and stuff like that. But I mean, he's been doing his thing.
You marvel at 9 straight years with 1,000 yards. That's crazy.
That's hard to do.
That's really hard to do.
That's hard, and he still doesn't get no love, man. I don't know what it is. Well,
I know you're starting to get some love because you're playing some really good football, and this team wouldn't be 4-1 if it wasn't for you and the way you've played early this season. Keep it up. Big matchup this week in Tampa. 2 division leaders could mean something in the NFC later on. You guys are fun to watch offensively. You're a big part of it. Thanks for taking the time, man.
I appreciate you having me on.
Mm-hmm.